Chosen one, I need you to stop what you are doing right now. Not because I am alarmed, not because I am speaking from a place of fear or condemnation, because the word I am carrying into this moment is one that God does not send through people who are alarmed. He sends it through people who love who they are delivering it to. And I love you too much to let what I am about to say get softened into something less than what it is. God is watching. I know that sentence lands in different places for different people. For some, God is watching is the most comforting thing in the universe. For others, it lands with weight, with a recognition, with a specific feeling that says, something in me knows what he is watching. If you felt the second thing, this message is for you. Now, before we go any further, I need to say the thing I am required to say clearly and first. What I am about to share is not a condemnation. It is not God raising his voice at you in anger. It is God raising his hand to stop something before it costs you something you were not designed to lose. There is a difference between God being disappointed in you and God being fiercely protective of you. What is operating in this message is the second one. This is not God against you, this is God for you. But he is watching, and there is something he needs you to stop. Here is what most people do not understand about the phrase, he removes what he gave you. They read it as punishment, as God taking back a gift because the recipient failed a test. But the mechanism is more specific than that. Imagine you were given precision equipment. Equipment calibrated for a specific set of operating conditions. And over time, something in the environment began disrupting those conditions. The equipment did not fail. The operating conditions changed, and the equipment began performing at a fraction of its designed capacity. At some point, the one who built the equipment comes to look at it and says, "This cannot stay here in these conditions." Not because the equipment is broken, because the conditions are costing the equipment what it was built to give. That is what is happening to the gift he gave you. And the word watching is the signal that the assessment is happening right now, not after more time. Now, if something in your chest tightened when I said that, type in the comments. Type, "The gift stays with me." Because that is not just a declaration, that is the beginning of the response he has been waiting for. There are 5 things God is watching in your life right now. We are going to name all 5, and by the time we have named them, you will understand not only what to stop, but why stopping it is not about willpower. It is about restoring something. Chosen one, the first thing I want to establish is what the watching signal actually means, because most people who feel the weight of God is watching assume it means disapproval, that he has seen something in them that has moved him from delight to disappointment. And that assumption drives them into a response that does not address the actual situation. The watching signal is not disapproval. The watching signal is God shifting from releasing mode to monitoring mode. It is the signal that something in the system that he built his plan around is operating in a way that is beginning to cost the plan, not your plan, his plan. The watching is not about your reputation or your performance in his estimation. It is about the gift he placed in you, the capacity he calibrated for a specific assignment, and what is currently happening to that capacity. When a parent watches a child who is about to step into something harmful, that watching is not disapproval, it is active protection. The watching precedes the intervention, and the intervention is not punishment. It is the act of a parent who is not willing to allow what they have invested in the child to be damaged by something the child has not yet recognized as dangerous. God is watching in that mode. The watching that precedes the reach out to stop something, not because you are in trouble, because what you carry is not in trouble, but it is in the proximity of something that would cost it. Now I want to name the 5 things that are being watched, and I need you to hear them without the defensive response that the word watched sometimes triggers. You are not on trial. you are being looked after. The first thing being watched is your intake environment, what you are regularly allowing into your attention, your media consumption, your social inputs, the quality of the content your mind is spending time in. Not because God is monitoring your entertainment choices for moral compliance, because the intake environment determines the baseline noise level of the system through which the gift operates. A high-noise intake environment does not silence the gift, but it raises the floor of the static that the gift has to cut through to express itself clearly. And above a certain static level, the gift operates at a fraction of its designed capacity. The second thing being watched is your rest pattern, not as a wellness recommendation, as a function of the gift. The gift that God placed in you was designed to operate through a system that is appropriately rested, not perfectly rested. Appropriately. The chronic state of operating on insufficient rest that has become normalized in your life is not a minor operational inefficiency. It is a condition that systematically degrades the neurological synchronization through which the gift functions. And a gift operating through a chronically depleted system is a gift that is working at partial power. Chosen one. The third thing being watched is your comparison habit. And I want to be precise about why God watches this one, because it is less obvious than the others. Comparison, when it operates as a regular internal conversation, does something specific to the receiver. It orients the whole system toward evaluation rather than reception. A system in evaluation mode is constantly measuring itself against external reference points. A system in reception mode is open, oriented towards signal, available to receive what is being sent. These two modes cannot fully operate simultaneously, and the gift God placed in you was designed for reception mode. Comparison systematically moves you out of that mode and into evaluation mode. And in evaluation mode, the gift cannot express at full resolution. The fourth thing being watched is your agreement with the narrative that says the gift is diminishing. This is subtle, but it is the most costly of the five. At some point in the formation season, a narrative began to be available to you about the status of your gift. The narrative says it used to be clearer, it used to be stronger, it used to produce things that felt more obviously connected to what you were made for. And the narrative concludes that something has been lost, that the gift is not what it was. That narrative is not accurate. It is the static reading itself as signal. The gift has not diminished. The receiver capacity through which the gift operates has been reduced by the accumulated load of the formation season, and a degraded receiver produces the experience of a diminished gift. But removing the receiver does not improve the gift. Restoring the receiver does. God watches the agreement with the narrative, because every time you agree with it, you are making a decision about the gift based on inaccurate data. And a person who has decided their gift is diminishing does not steward it the way a person who knows their gift is intact but temporarily obscured would steward it. The watching is God not willing to allow you to make that decision based on false information. The fifth thing being watched is your proximity to what restores. God watches whether you are moving toward the things that restore the receiver or whether you are staying in the conditions that continue to degrade it, not as a test, as an assessment. Because what comes next in what He has arranged for you requires the receiver to be at a specific level of function, and the watching of your proximity to what restores is the watching of whether the receiver is going to be at that level when the next thing arrives. Type in the comments. Type I stop what costs the gift, because naming what you are releasing is the first movement toward the restoration. Chosen one, I want to give you 5 specific signals that the watching window is active right now, not as a test you might fail, as landmarks that help you understand precisely where you are in the journey. The first signal is what I am going to call the muting effect. The muting effect is the experience where the thing that used to feel most distinctly like you, the creative impulse, the sense of directional certainty, the intuitive knowing about what to do next, has gone quiet in a way that does not feel like rest, but like absence. You have looked for it. You have tried to access it through the same channels that used to produce it reliably, and it has not arrived with the same clarity or the same force. That muting is not the gift departing. It is the gift physics operating in a degraded receiver. The gift is still there. The receiver, through which it arrives in your awareness, has been operating below the threshold of clear transmission. The second signal is the exhaustion paradox. You are tired in ways that sleep does not fully fix. You wake up and the tiredness is waiting for you, not every morning, but enough mornings that you have noticed it. And this is paradoxical because the exhaustion does not correspond to the amount of effort you have been putting out. There are people around you who seem to be doing more and recovering more completely. The exhaustion paradox is not a stamina failure. It is the signal of a system that is spending the majority of its energy on maintenance and management of the degraded state, rather than on output and expression. When the receiver is synchronized, the system spends far less energy on managing itself and far more on producing what it was designed to produce. The third signal is the loop awareness. You have noticed that you keep arriving at the same interior places, the same questions about whether you are on the right track, the same doubts about the gift, the same patterns of thought that circle back to familiar conclusions without producing new movement. The loop is the degraded receiver trying to process material that requires a synchronized system to resolve. A fragmented system cannot synthesize the inputs the way a synchronized system can, so it loops. Not because you are a looping type of person, because the receiver is not currently equipped to do what synthesis requires. The fourth signal is the invitation sensitivity. In this season, more than usual, you have been aware of things that feel like they are speaking directly to your situation, not in a paranoid way. In the way where you notice a message, a word, a phrase in an unexpected place, and something in you says that is for me. This is not random. The watching window is characterized by a specific kind of attentiveness that God opens in the person who carries the gift. It is the system of the receiver becoming more sensitive to the signals being sent specifically to bring information about the restoration pathway. The fact that this message found you and that you are still reading at this point is evidence of the invitation sensitivity being active. The fifth signal is the acceleration awareness. Even in the midst of the receiver degradation, you have had moments where you could feel, just beneath the surface, that something significant is proximate. Not a vague sense of hope, a specific sense of imminence. Something is close. You do not know what it is, and you cannot always sustain the sense of it, and the degraded receiver sometimes makes you doubt it. But the signal keeps returning. That is God telling you through the gift itself that what is staged and waiting for the receiver to be restored is not far. The acceleration awareness is the gift leaking through the degraded receiver just enough to communicate its proximity. 5 signals. If you recognize 3 or more of them in your current season, type in the comments. Type 5 signals, restoration gate, because naming your location is the first step toward moving from it. Chosen one, I want to give you a breakthrough right now, because the 5 things that are being watched are only the symptoms, and addressing symptoms without understanding the mechanism produces temporary change at best. Here is the symptom I want to name. You have been trying to stop things, maybe specific behaviors, specific habits, specific patterns of thought or consumption that you have recognized as costing you. And you have had varying success. You have had periods where the stopping seemed sustainable. And you have had periods where the thing you stopped returned, sometimes in a different form, sometimes in the same form, and the cycle repeated. The common explanation for that cycle is willpower failure, character weakness, a lack of sufficient commitment or discipline. And you have probably spent some amount of energy trying to strengthen the willpower, deepen the commitment, improve the discipline, and the cycle continued. Here is what is actually operating. The things you have been trying to stop are not primarily moral failures. They are adaptations. The nervous system, under sustained load, adapts by seeking regulation. The forms it reaches for to achieve that regulation are not always the forms that are best for the system, but the drive behind them is not weakness. It is the system seeking relief from an overload condition. And willpower cannot sustainably override a drive that is rooted in the system, is response to genuine overload. What can interrupt that cycle is reducing the overload condition, not through rest alone, though rest matters. Through restoring the neurological synchronization that allows the system to self-regulate effectively without reaching for the adaptations that are costing the gift. A person who wakes up with a synchronized brain does not need the morning scroll the way a person with a fragmented brain needs it, not because they have more willpower, because their system does not have the same overload pattern that the scroll was regulating. The synchronization produces its own form of interior regulation, and when that regulation is present as a baseline, the reach for the adaptive substitutes diminishes naturally. This is the hidden mechanism behind why some things are hard to stop, even when you genuinely want to stop them. They are not failures of will. They are your system doing the best it can with the tools available in a degraded state. Restore the state. And the tools the system reaches for change. Type in the comments. Type, "My system is being restored." Because what you are declaring is not a resolution to try harder. You are declaring that you understand what the stopping actually requires. Chosen one. Now, I want to pause and bring something into this message from a direction most people in your position have not yet considered. Because what God is watching is not ultimately about behavior. It is about the gift. And the gift has a story that I want to tell you. You were born with something that researchers have confirmed most adults no longer carry. 98% of children operate at what scientists have called the creative genius level, a state of neurological synchronization between the two hemispheres of the brain that produces the receptivity, the creativity, the intuitive intelligence, and the openness to divine communication that most adults have lost, somewhere between childhood and where they are now. You were not born with your gift, despite your biology. Your gift and your biology were designed together. The gift that God placed in you was calibrated for a receiver that, in its original design state, was synchronized at the whole brain level. The gift and the whole brain state were created to work together, and what has been happening over the years of the formation season is that the receiver has been progressively moving away from the synchronized state that the gift was designed for. That is the mechanism behind everything God is watching. Not the surface behaviors, the state of the receiver. The 5 things being watched are 5 ways the receiver state is being degraded. And God is watching, because He is not willing to allow the receiver to degrade past the point where the gift can no longer operate through it at the level His plan requires. The removal He references is not His choice. It is the physics of what happens when a gift designed for a synchronized receiver tries to operate through a sufficiently fragmented receiver. The gift does not disappear, but it goes quiet, not because God took it back, because the instrument through which it operates can no longer transmit it clearly, and the watching signal is God saying, "Before that happens, I am sending you the information you need to restore the receiver." Now, I want to bring someone into this message who understood from the inside what it felt like to carry a gift through conditions that were threatening the receiver. His name is Elijah. And I do not want to bring Elijah as the fire on Mount Carmel version, the version where the gift was operating at full power. I want to bring Elijah from the cave. After Mount Carmel, after the greatest public demonstration of the gift in his life, Elijah ran. He sat under a tree and asked to die. He said, "It is enough. I have nothing left." That is not the behavior of someone who is spiritually rebellious. That is the behavior of someone whose receiver has been pushed past its sustainable operating threshold. The gift was intact. The capacity to operate the gift at the level the moment required was not. Chosen one, what God did for Elijah in the cave is the most important thing in that story for where you are right now. He did not rebuke Elijah. He did not question his faith. He did not point to the thing he was doing wrong or ask him why he had stopped. He told him to sleep. He sent an angel to provide food. He let the receiver recover through the most basic forms of restoration available. And only after Elijah had rested, eaten, and traveled to the specific place that would be able to hold what was about to be said, did God speak the word that reoriented the assignment. God is not watching you the way a disappointed authority figure watches a subordinate who has failed. He is watching you the way he watched Elijah in that cave. He sees the condition of the receiver. He knows what produced the condition. He is not requiring performance from you in your current state. He is providing the information you need to restore the receiver so that what he has prepared for you next can be received into a vessel that can hold it. The 5 things being watched are not a list of failures. They are the 5 adjustments that, when made, move the receiver back toward the synchronized state that the gift was designed for. That is why he is watching, to see when the movement begins. Now, I want to hold something in front of you before we continue, something I am going to come back to later in this message. Over the past decade, something has been confirmed in research laboratories by a team of neuroscientists in New York that has direct bearing on what we have been discussing. A specific technology developed from Nobel Prize research on the brain that takes less than 10 minutes a day and produces the measurable restoration of whole brain synchronization that the receiver requires. I am going to tell you exactly what it is and how it works later in this message. For now, hold this question. What if stopping what God is watching does not require more willpower? What if it requires restoring what makes willpower unnecessary? Type in the comments right now if you have been in the cycle of trying to stop and returning to what you tried to stop. Type, "The cycle ends here," not as a declaration of more effort, as a declaration that you are about to understand the mechanism behind the cycle and the mechanism of its resolution. Chosen one, I want to give you something that names what you have been experiencing in a way that is more precise than you may have had language for before this message. I am going to call it the receiver erosion cycle. This is the specific mechanism through which the gift gradually becomes less accessible, even in a person who is genuinely committed to stewarding it well. The cycle works like this. The formation season places sustained load on the system. The system responds to the load by seeking regulation through the 5 categories of behavior that God is watching. Each of those regulatory behaviors, though they provide temporary relief, adds to the load on the system over time, rather than reducing it. The intake environment that numbs the system from the signal of the gift, the disrupted rest pattern that reduces the synchronization baseline, the comparison habit that drains the reception capacity, the agreement with the diminishment narrative that reduces investment in the gift, the proximity to what degrades rather than restores. All 5 of these are the system trying to manage a load it was not designed to carry without the restoration tool that God has now provided. And the cycle has a specific reversal point, not through removing all 5 simultaneously, which is not realistic and creates its own form of overload, but through restoring the receiver synchronization. Because when the receiver synchronization improves, the drive toward the regulatory behaviors reduces naturally. The system no longer needs to reach for those forms of management because the synchronization provides a native regulation that is more effective and less costly. There is a second name I want to give you. I am going to call it the watching window. This is the specific period in a calling during which the signal God sends is the watching signal. The watching window is not a permanent state. It is a window. It has an end. And the end is either the movement toward restoration or the continued movement toward fragmentation. God does not keep the watching window open indefinitely, not because he gives up, but because the architecture of his plan requires that the person carrying the gift either move into the restoration or move into the release of what was given so that the gift can be reassigned or placed in dormancy until conditions allow for its reactivation. You are in the watching window right now. This message is evidence of that, because the watching window is accompanied by specific attempts to reach the person with the information they need to move toward restoration. This message is one of those attempts. The question is not whether God is watching. The question is what you do with the watching. Chosen one. There is a category of what is being watched that I have not yet named explicitly. It sits underneath all 5 of the categories I described earlier, and understanding it changes how you relate to the watching signal. What God is watching underneath all 5 of the surface categories is the conversation that is happening inside you about your own status, the internal conversation about whether you are still chosen, whether the gift is still present, whether the assignment is still yours to carry, whether the delays of the formation season mean that the plan has changed. This internal conversation is the most important thing being watched, because it is the one that determines whether all 5 of the surface adjustments are made from a place of conviction or from a place of desperation. And here is what God is watching for in that internal conversation. He is not watching for certainty. He is not watching for the absence of doubt. He is watching for the direction of the conversation. A conversation that is moving toward what I carry is real. The gift is intact. The receiver is restorable. And what is staged for the next season is ready, is a conversation God can work with. Even when the conviction in that conversation is fragile. Even when it has to be renewed daily. Even when it wavers in the moments when the muting effect is strongest. What he is watching for is the direction, not the arrival, the turning toward. I am going to give you a name for the internal conversation I want you to begin carrying. I am going to call it the Restoration Declaration, and it has 3 movements. The first movement of the Restoration Declaration is this: what God placed in me was calibrated for a whole brain receiver. The receiver has been degraded by the formation season. The gift is intact. The receiver is restorable. Say that slowly in your mind right now. Notice what it does. Notice where it lands. The first movement is not positive thinking. It is accurate thinking. It is aligning the internal conversation with what is actually true about the situation rather than with what the degraded receiver is reporting about the situation. The second movement of the Restoration Declaration is this: the watching signal is not judgment, it is preparation. God is watching because what comes next in the assignment requires the receiver to be at capacity. And he is watching because he is the one who is going to provide the restoration pathway. The second movement shifts the emotional register of the watching signal from weight to invitation, not dismissing the weight, locating it correctly. The weight is not displeasure, it is the weight of significance, of the thing that is being prepared, being weighty enough that the watching takes on a corresponding gravity. The third movement of the Restoration Declaration is this: I cross the Restoration Gate today, not by arriving at a different state, by beginning the movement toward it. The decision to move toward restoration is the first step through the gate, and the first step through the gate changes what the watching sees. Chosen one, I want to name the mechanism with precision now, because what God is watching cannot be addressed without understanding the exact physics of what is operating. I am going to call this the gift physics, and when I explain it, I want you to hear it not as a metaphor, but as a literal description of how the gift you carry operates in the context of the brain that was designed to carry it. The gift God placed in you was designed for a receiver that operates in a state called whole brain synchronization. This is not a spiritual idea. It is a neurological fact. When the two hemispheres of the brain are synchronized, the pattern recognition, creative synthesis, and receptivity to signal operate as a unified system. And in that unified system, the information that God is transmitting into your life as assignment, as direction, as creative download, as divine intuition, arrives with full resolution. When the hemispheres are desynchronized, which happens progressively under sustained load, the two halves of the system are no longer communicating at their designed bandwidth. The left hemisphere tries to do its job and the right hemisphere tries to do its job, but the integration channel between them, what researchers call interhemispheric coherence, is reduced. And when that integration channel is reduced, the quality of what arrives in your awareness from the gift is reduced accordingly, not because the gift stopped transmitting. Because the receiver is no longer processing the transmission at full resolution. This is the gift physics. The gift does not diminish. The physics of how it arrives in awareness changes when the receiver state changes. And the receiver state changes because of the 5 things that are currently being watched. Now, here is where this becomes practically important. If you understand the gift physics, you understand why trying harder to stop things is not the mechanism that resolves the watching signal. The stopping is necessary, but the stopping alone does not restore the receiver. The receiver requires a specific kind of restoration that addresses the neurological synchronization directly. And without that restoration, even a person who successfully stops all 5 of the things being watched will find that the receiver improves slowly at best, and that the gift, while no longer actively being degraded, does not return to the resolution level it was designed for. What restores the receiver is restoring the interhemispheric coherence, the whole brain synchronization state. And the research that has been done on how to do this quickly and sustainably is what I am about to bring you. Chosen one. Before I introduce what I want to share with you, I need to give you a callback to something I said earlier in this message. I mentioned that there is a specific technology developed from Nobel Prize research on the brain that takes less than 10 minutes a day and produces the measurable restoration of whole brain synchronization that the receiver requires. It is time to tell you exactly what this is. In the 1980s, Dr. Roger Sperry received the Nobel Prize for research that fundamentally changed how the scientific community understood the brain. His work on split brain function established in rigorous scientific terms that the two hemispheres of the brain perform different but complementary functions, and that the quality of communication between them determines the quality of what a person can think, create, perceive, and receive. His work was the scientific confirmation of what people of faith have known experientially for centuries, that the higher states of human functioning, those moments of clarity, insight, creativity, and what can only be called divine reception, are states of whole brain integration. What Dr. Sperry and researchers who followed him did not have was a tool that could reliably and quickly restore that integration state in people whose normal daily conditions had degraded it. They could measure the state, they could describe it, they could confirm that the degradation was real and that it was costing people their access to the full capacity of their minds. But the restoration protocol did not exist in a form that a person could use on their own, in their own life, in their own time. That changed when a team of neuroscientists at a research facility in New York began applying what Sperry had proven into the development of a technology that uses specific sound frequencies precisely engineered to resonate with the brain at the frequencies that characterize whole brain synchronization, delivered through ordinary headphones in a session that takes less than 8 minutes. The science behind it is called neural sync technology, and the tool they built from it is called the Genius Switch. I want to be specific about what it does. When you listen to the Genius Switch through headphones, the audio frequencies delivered to your left ear and your right ear are specifically engineered to be slightly different in a way that causes the brain to produce a third frequency, the binaural beat, that corresponds to the interhemispheric coherence state. The brain follows that frequency the way a tuning fork follows the note struck by another tuning fork in proximity. And over the 8 minutes of the session, the interhemispheric coherence measurably improves. This is not a relaxation tool. It is not a meditation aid. It is not background music. It is a precision neurological restoration tool. And for the person carrying a gift that was designed for a whole brain receiver, in a season when that receiver has been degraded by the 5 things God is watching, it is the most specific and efficient restoration pathway available. Chosen one, I want to hold the specific experience of what changes when the receiver is restored, because understanding what is possible is part of what makes the choice to pursue restoration feel real rather than theoretical. The people who have used the Genius Switch consistently report 3 specific categories of change, and I want to name all 3 because each one is directly relevant to what God is watching in your life right now. The first category of change is what they describe as a return of interior clarity, not the artificial clarity that comes from caffeine or adrenaline. The settled clarity, the kind where you wake up and the first thoughts that arrive are oriented rather than scattered, where the morning does not immediately feel like a negotiation with the noise of your own mind about how to get through the day, where you have access again to the signal beneath the surface of the normal daily static. This is the clarity that the gift requires to express itself through you. When the receiver is fragmented, the noise floor is too high for the gift signal to register clearly. When the receiver is synchronized, the noise floor drops and the signal comes through. People describe it as feeling like they had been in a fog they did not know was a fog until they were no longer in it. The second category of change is what they describe as a reduction in the pull toward the regulatory behaviors. The things they had been trying to stop, the scroll pattern, the late-night consumption habits, the comparison loops, the rumination, did not require the same effort to redirect. Not because willpower increased, because the underlying need that those behaviors were trying to address, the need for regulation, for relief from the overload, was being met by the synchronization itself. The system was no longer reaching for external management tools because its internal management capacity had been restored. If you have been in the cycle of trying to stop and finding the thing you tried to stop returning, this is the mechanism behind the exit from that cycle, not more effort. A restored receiver. The third category of change is what they describe as a return of receptivity to what they call downloads, the intuitive flashes, the creative insights, the directional clarity about what to do next, the sense that they are again receiving information from a source beyond their own analytical thinking, the gift, in other words. operating at a level they had not experienced in years. 18,456 people have now gone through a sustained practice with the genius switch. And the consistent thread across their reports is not just that they feel better, it is that they feel like themselves again. The self that was there before the formation season degraded the receiver. The self that the gift was designed for. Chosen one, I want to give you the practical pathway now, because the word God is watching contains within it an implicit question. Watching for what? And the answer is, he is watching for the signal that the receiver is being restored. The signal that the person who carries the gift is moving toward the conditions that allow the gift to operate at the level the next season requires. That signal does not have to be massive. In fact, massive, visible change is not primarily what God watches for. He watches for the internal orientation, the decision that precedes the action, the moment when the person who carries the gift stops allowing the receiver to continue degrading and begins the movement toward restoration. Here is what the practical pathway looks like for someone in your position. The first movement is recognizing which of the 5 watching categories is costing you the most. Not trying to address all 5 simultaneously, which creates its own form of overload. Just identifying the primary drain on the receiver. Is it the intake environment, the rest disruption, the comparison habit, the diminishment narrative, or the proximity to what degrades rather than restores? Name it, not to condemn yourself for it. To understand where the most significant recovery in receiver capacity is available. The second movement is restoring the neurological baseline. This is where the genius switch enters the pathway, not as a replacement for the spiritual disciplines or the practical changes in the 5 categories, as the neurological foundation that makes those changes more sustainable. 8 minutes a day, through headphones, in the morning, when the interhemispheric coherence is at its most responsive to input. The technical precision of neural sync technology means that the session does not require a specific environment or extended time block. It requires headphones and 8 minutes. The third movement is protecting the restoration. This is where the awareness of the 5 watching categories becomes a maintenance framework rather than a conviction list. You are not trying to be perfect in all 5. You are protecting the neurological baseline that the restoration has established. Each time the baseline is protected, the gift operates more clearly. Each time the baseline is restored after a period of disruption, the disruption costs less because the recovery pathway is established. This is the structure of what God is watching for. Not perfection, movement. The movement from the removal zone into the restoration gate. And the restoration gate is exactly what it sounds like. The specific convergence of decision and tool and neurological change that opens the receiver back to the level the gift requires. The link to the genius switch is in the description. One link directly below. Not as pressure, as the tool the pathway requires. Chosen one, I want to address something directly, because there is a version of this message that can be heard in a way that I did not intend and that I want to correct before this message closes. You might hear the mechanism I have described, the idea that the gift operates through the physics of the receiver, and conclude that the spiritual dimension is being reduced to a neurological dimension. That what I am describing is not God watching and God acting, but simply brain states and their consequences. I want to address that directly. The neurological mechanism is real. The gift physics is real. The interhemispheric coherence and its relationship to the quality of what a person can access in their highest capacities is confirmed by decades of research. All of that is true. And the tool built from that research, the genius switch, produces real neurological change that makes the receiver more available to the gift. But the gift is not a neurological product. The gift is what God placed in you. The mission, the creative capacity, the intuitive intelligence, the divine reception, the specific assignment that has your name on it, and that no other person in the history of the world carries in exactly the way you carry it. That is not a product of brain chemistry. The brain chemistry is the channel. God is the source, and restoring the channel does not create the gift. It clears the path for the gift to come through. This is why the watching is from God and not from a productivity framework. Because what God placed in you is not an asset that can be optimized through better habits. It is a living charge that He entrusted to you, and that He is actively interested in seeing expressed at the level He designed it for. The watching is personal. It is attentive in the way a father watches a child who has been given a significant responsibility and who is navigating a season that is testing whether the child understands the weight of what they carry. And the restoration is from God and not from a supplement. The Genius Switch is a tool. It is a precision tool built from confirmed research. But the tool is a pathway, not the destination. The destination is the receiver restored to the state where the gift God placed in you can operate through it at the level He designed it for. The tool is the fastest and most reliable pathway to that destination that is currently available. But the gift that arrives through the restored receiver is still His gift, arriving more clearly, through a channel that is no longer working against its own design. I say this because I do not want you to hear this message and walk away thinking that what comes next in your assignment is something you are going to produce. It is something you are going to receive. The restoration does not make you capable of achieving the assignment. It makes you available to the assignment. And available is everything God has been watching for. Type in the comments. Type available. Because available is the word that names the position God is watching for. Not perfect, not fully arrived. Not having solved all 5 of the watching categories with complete success. Available, receiver, open, interhemispheric coherence restored, gift transmitting at full resolution, available. Chosen one, I want to give you the removal zone in full now, because understanding what it is removes the fear from it and replaces the fear with a specific motivation to move. The removal zone is the state of the receiver past which the gift cannot express through it at the level the plan requires. It is not a punishment state. It is a physics boundary. A gift designed for a synchronized receiver that is attempting to operate through a receiver that has been fragmented past the threshold cannot maintain its designed output. Something is released. Not because God took it back in anger, because the physics of the system cannot sustain the output in those conditions. But here is what most people do not know about the removal zone. The zone has an entrance and it has an exit. People talk about it as though it is a permanent condition, as though once a gift has been removed, the situation is irreversible. But that is not what the scripture says, and it is not what the research says. Samson entered the removal zone. His receiver had been degraded by the specific relational environment he had allowed himself to stay in, the compromised environment, the environment that drained the receiver of the strength it was designed to carry. And the gift went quiet. The strength departed. He did not know it was gone. That is a specific feature of the removal zone. The person in it often does not know they have entered it until the moment when the gift is required and does not arrive. But Samson exited the removal zone. The scripture says the hair of his head began to grow again after he was shaved. The restoration was beginning while he was in the worst position of his life. And when the moment came for the gift to be required one final time, the gift arrived, at full expression. The exit from the removal zone was not instant. It was the incremental restoration of the receiver conditions that allowed the gift to rebuild its expression capacity. You are not in the removal zone. If you were fully in it, this message would not have reached you. The fact that this is landing, that something in you is recognizing these words, is evidence that the gift is still transmitting. The receiver is degraded. The watching signal is active, but you are at the entrance to the watching window, not at the exit into the removal zone. And the restoration gate is available right now, not after more time, not after more work, not after you have proven yourself worthy through sustained effort. Right now. The decision to move toward restoration is the first step through the restoration gate, and it begins a sequence of neurological and spiritual changes that, when sustained, produce the full recovery of the receiver capacity the gift was designed for. Chosen one, I want to give you a final picture. A picture of what the other side of the restoration gate looks like for someone who carries a gift at the level you carry it. On the other side of the restoration gate, the gift does not slowly trickle back in. It arrives with a rush, not all at once, and not in ways that the person can always articulate immediately. But the interior experience of the gift returning to full expression is not gradual and barely perceptible. It is recognizable. It arrives like water returning to a dry riverbed after rain, not in a trickle, in a movement. The people who have gone through the full restoration cycle using the Genius Switch and the accompanying receiver practices describe the experience in remarkably similar terms. They say, it felt like being found. Not in a dramatic way, in the quiet way that happens when you stop looking for something and it appears. The gift did not feel like something they had to pursue. It felt like something that was always there, waiting for the conditions to change so it could come through at full volume. And the second thing they consistently report is that the assignments that had been waiting for the receiver to be restored arrived in close proximity to the restoration, not years later, not after a long period of proving, shortly after the restoration gate was crossed, as though what God had been preparing while the receiver was being restored was staged and ready and required only the receiver to be back at capacity to be handed over. I do not know specifically what the assignment is that has been staged and waiting for you. God has not given me that detail, but the pattern is consistent enough across enough people in enough different life situations that I can say with confidence, what comes through the restoration gate with you is not just a repaired version of what you had before, it is an accelerated version. The delay of the watching season becomes compression fuel for what comes next. Type in the comments. If this message has given you language for something you have been experiencing without words, type restoration gate, not because of the words, because naming the gate is the beginning of walking through it. And I want to say one more thing about the Genius Switch before we move into the final portion of this message. It is available right now at the link in the description for $39 with a full money-back guarantee. Not because the guarantee is the point, because the people who offered that guarantee did so from the confidence that the result is not a matter of belief, it is a matter of physics. The neural sync technology does what the Nobel Prize research confirmed it can do. The guarantee is the offer of a person who knows the tool works and is willing to stake the transaction on it. Chosen one, I want to close this message where it must close, not with a summary, not with a list of action steps, with the thing that God is actually watching for. He is watching for the receiver to be restored so that what he has prepared for the next chapter of your calling can be received into a vessel that can hold it. That is the watching. That is the signal, and that is why this message exists in this moment. You did not find this message. It found you. Because the watching signal is active, and the information that the watching signal requires you to have arrived through the channel that God has opened. And what you do with that information is what the watching is now attending to. I want to name the 4 things I have placed in your hands through this message, because carrying them out of this message and into your life is the movement that the watching is watching for. The first thing is a name for what is happening. The watching signal, the receiver erosion cycle, the gift physics, the removal zone, the watching window, the restoration gate. 2. Names carry power because they give the mind something to orient toward rather than a vague feeling of something being off. You now have the names. Use them to navigate. The second thing is the mechanism behind the cycle, not willpower failure, not character weakness. The receiver erosion cycle, a system that is managing sustained load with the tools available in a degraded state. The mechanism behind the cycle is the mechanism behind the exit from the cycle. Restore the receiver, and the tools the system reaches for change. The third thing is the specific restoration pathway. The 5 adjustments grounded in an understanding of what is being watched and why. And the genius switch, the tool built from Nobel Prize research that restores interhemispheric coherence in 8 minutes a day at the neurological level that makes the adjustments sustainable rather than temporary. The fourth thing is the picture of what is on the other side, not maintenance, not surviving the watching season by barely holding things together, the restoration gate and the acceleration that comes through it. What comes next in your assignment is staged. It is ready. The only thing it is waiting for is the receiver. The link is in the description. 1 click, 1 decision, and the watching signal becomes the restoration signal. Chosen one, the watching is not over you in fear, it is over you in preparation. He is not watching because he is uncertain about what he placed in you. He is watching because what he placed in you is too important to allow to continue operating at a fraction of its designed capacity. And the moment you cross the restoration gate, the watching changes from assessment to celebration. Cross the gate. The gift is waiting on the other side. The link is in the description, not at the top. Look for it. It is flanked. It is there. Ask.